What we gonna do right here is go back. Way back. Back into time.
Hey guys, Larry from the GRP here. On my lonesome, yeah. Welcome anyway to an edition of the Back in Time reviews of our classic films. This one is going to be a review of Blade 2. As I said, I'm on my lonesome today because Damien and Leon are otherwise engaged, so I had to man the fort today. But it's much better with me, isn't it? Yeah. Actually, we've been meaning to do some Back in Time reviews for a long while. We actually had one done, but there was a lot of technical issues with that one. I'll be honest, that was actually for the Matrix, the original Matrix film. That will get done again at some point. So all you guys who are looking forward to that, that will come at some point. But now is going to be a Back in Time review of Blade 2, my favorite Blade. And I think if the boys were here, they would say it was their favorite Blade as well. So as always, I will give you a few facts about the film. Then I'll give you a brief, or try to be as brief as I can, a brief synopsis of the film. And then we'll talk about the different characters and scenes and what I thought of the film overall. So without further ado, let's do this. Right, so Blade 2. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro and was written by David Goyer, who wrote the first and the third film, and he also directed the third film. We'll say no more about that. But yeah, so obviously it stars Wesley Snipes as Blade. It stars Chris Christopherson as Whistler. Also has Ron Perlman as Reinhardt. Lenore Varela as Nisa. Norman Reedus as Scud, Luke Goss from the boy band duo of Bros. If you remember that shows you how old I am. But Luke Goss plays the villain Nomak, and a friend of mine. We're actually in the same WhatsApp group for actors. Danny John Jules plays Hassad. So this film had a budget of $54 million, and it made in the world wide box office a total of $155 million. So pretty much 3 times the amount. So it was good. It made some money. I'm quite sure if that film was made now, it would make more than probably $500 million. Yeah, 500 million. I think so. But yeah, so the film was released in March 2002 on the 22nd. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention also one of the stars. How can I forget? Donnie Yen. Donnie Yen as Snowman. Criminally underused, but we'll talk about that later. And Matt Schultz as Chupa, who was also in the first Blade. And if you've seen our review of the first Blade, you'll see that we mentioned that as well. So, yeah, some facts about this film. So this film was meant to introduce Hannibal King and Frank Drake, if you remember them from the third one. Yeah, so that Hannibal King was Ryan Reynolds' character, and Frank Drake was Dracula, which was, I forgot the actor who played it, but he was a villain in the third one, Blade Trinity. So they were originally meant to be introduced in Blade 2, as well as a time travel story where Blade goes several years into the future, which I don't think would have worked, really. I mean, do you guys really think that would have worked? Doubt it. Glad they stuck to the script they had. Another fact, David Goyer had planned to use Morbius in this film, but was told by Marvel that they wanted a franchise with Morbius, so he couldn't use it. I'm also quite sure it wasn't even just Marvel, because at that time, I think, yeah, Spider-Man was owned by Sony, so they couldn't have made. They had to get Sony's permission, not even Marvel's, because Sony has the rights to Spider-Man and all the Spider-Man characters, and Morbius is a Spider-Man character. Although he does interact with Blade a lot in the comics, he's primarily a Spider-Man character. So yeah, he couldn't use him. Another fact is David Goyer, the writer, compared the story to the Dirty Dozen. Now, if you've seen the Dirty Dozen films, you'll see that there is quite a similarity, because in the Dirty Dozen, they get a ragtag of guys, you know, from prison who have had military experience, and they put a team together, kind of like the Suicide Squad, put a team together to say that, look, if you succeed in this mission, you will get to have your freedom, so on and so forth. So it's kind of like this as well. This was a ragtag. In a sense, it was, because Blade wasn't really part of the team. In fact, they were opposing Blade. They were going to hunt Blade. So in that sense, I can see the comparisons, you know. So another fact is Guillermo del Toro was hired after Stephen Norrington, who directed the first film, turned down to direct the sequel, which was quite a shame, actually, because I really enjoyed Stephen Norrington's take on the first Blade. Even Guillermo del Toro actually mentions that he really loved what Norrington did, and he actually studied it so that he can see what he can do for his film. So I thought that was quite an interesting tidbit there. So filming was in Prague studios and in Barrandov studios in the Czech Republic, as well as in London. So those were the two locations. And apparently there's a New Line Platinum Series DVD that contains several deleted scenes. One of those scenes being Blade's first meeting with Whistler. And in fact, if you remember the beginning of the film, they actually do a little flashback of that when Whistler has a younger Blade, when he discovers who he is. So I think there's probably a longer version of that in a deleted scene. Speaking of deleted scene, well, not a deleted scene, but a scene that was on the original script, Blade was meant to have a sex scene with Nisa. So Nisa obviously is the daughter of the head vampire, Damaskinos. And she kind of develops a little friendship with Blade in Blade 2. So obviously they wanted that to go further. I'm kind of glad it didn't, to be honest. It wasn't needed. This is a really interesting fact. Get this. Michael Jackson was supposed to be a vampire pimp in the House of Pain, the little rave that they went to when they were first looking for the Reapers. But he dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. That would have been that would have been enjoyable, actually. Actually, they could have got Prince for that as well, you know. That could have worked as well. But anyway, this film out of the Blade franchise is Wesley Snipes' favorite, which is not surprising. I think it's most people's favorites. Although the first one is very close. Yeah, I give this one a nod, and I'll tell you why a little later on. Asia Argento, Kristana Loken, Elena Ayana, and Rona Mitra were all considered for the role of Nisa. The only two names that I know there are Rona Mitra and Kristana Loken. Kristana Loken being the Terminatrix in the third Terminator film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't think it would have mattered either way. I mean, Lenore played a good part, you know, playing Nisa. So, but yeah, I don't see what any more. Well, I only know two of them. So, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. So, those are the facts that I have for you. I could have got some more, but yeah, we would have been here forever. So anyway, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of what happens in this film, and then we're going to talk about the characters and whatnot. So basically, this film starts off with Blade going after some vampires in a safe house. And he beats them up, and whatnot, and he gets one of them, but he doesn't kill them because he wants information about where they're holding Whistler. Now, if you remember, Whistler in the first one, he was bitten by Deacon Frost, so he was gonna change into a vampire, but he then shot himself. But the fact that he's alive means that he was well into the change before he shot himself. So that vampire tells Blade where they're holding Whistler. So Blade takes him along and uses him as a shield, basically, for all the bullets coming at him. And then he fights all these vampires, and lets the guy go, the vampire go who gave him the information to get there, and used him as a shield. And he said that he'll consider him a loose end, which you'll get to later. So he finds Whistler, and he, releases him from where he is. He brings him back to his lair, where his new assistant, Scud, is with him, like, doing what Whistler used to do. So when he brings Whistler in, he says, "Oh, did you kill him?" And he's obviously sees that Whistler's not dead. He tells Blade it's a mistake. Blade injects Whistler with a retro antivirus or something like that, and he says, "Look, this will help you. I'm going to lock you in this room, and the blind's going to open in the morning, whether you're killed or not. So, wait till the morning." Blade goes back in there, blinds open, Whistler's sitting in a corner, but you can see that the sunlight has hit his legs, so he's fine. So they're catching up. Whistler obviously is not getting on with Scud, and then there's a breach in their lair security, and two sort of ninjas start to come through and start to fight Blade. And there's a really cool fight scene there. A lot of it CGI, which we'll get into later. So there's a fight scene there, and Blade is about to incapacitate them. Well, there was two ninjas, where one of the ninjas said, "Look, we're only here to deliver a message. We're not actually here to fight you." So it turns out that they're vampires, and they're actually vampires from the ruling nation. And they've come to ask a truce with Blade, and that he can come to see the Overlord, which him, Whistler, and Scud do. And so they see the Overlord Damoskinos, and he explains to them that there's a new virus in a vampire race, and there's a carrier called Nomak, and he's the one that's infecting all the other vampires. And so Blade was like, "Look, he seems to be doing the job for me. Why should I help you?" And then he had to explain that, look, he will turn on humans next. So basically Blade is then introduced to the Blood Pack, who were training for 2 years to hunt Blade. But because of what's happened with Nomak, they now have to help Blade to find Nomak and kill him, so that this virus doesn't get out of hand. So obviously Blade gets introduced to the Blood Pack, and Reinhardt straight away takes a dislike into Blade. Little bit of a racist. I'll explain that later. And yeah, played brilliantly by Ron Perlman, actually. And so Blade kind of puts him under manners by attaching a bomb to the back of his head, and tells him to behave himself, otherwise he's going to set it off. So he says, look, Blade then tells everyone in the Blood Pack, "You'll be taking your orders from me." And he says, "Look, let's go and find where the vampires congregate." And then Nisa then suggests they go to the House of Pain. So they go to this House of Pain, and the vampires are raving it up. Very similar to the beginning scenes of the first Blade movie, but they're raving it up to rap, to whatever. And they start to spot some of these Reapers. So they're going on some of them start to spot them on the dance floor. Some of them are looking around, looking around, including Blade. Nomak finds Nisa, and as he does that, Blade finds him, and then Nomak was like, "Look, is the enemy of my enemy my friend?" Turns out he's not. And they have a bit of a fight, and actually that fight kind of really establishes how powerful Nomak is, because Blade had the EDTA capsules, which he had from the first film, which he used to defeat Deacon Frost. He actually had them in his fists, like in a sort of contraption that Scud had given to him. So all he has to do is punch, and the cartridge goes into the vampire, and you know, so on and so forth. So he did this a couple of times with Nomak, and Nomak kind of had like a blood clot in his head, but then he came back to normal. And the look on Blade's face was like, that said 1,000 words. And then him stepping back, and you never know Blade step back. So anyway, they have a little bit of a fight. In the end, Blade manages to get some sunlight onto reflect some sunlight, should I say, but with his blade onto Nomak, and that allows him to escape. In the meantime, all the other guys from the Blood Pack have had set twos with the Reaper vampires, and they've not come out very well, especially Priest, one of the Blood Pack, who gets bitten and also starts to change. There's also another vampire, Lighthammer, who from the Blood Pack, who also gets bitten, but he hides it, and he doesn't change straight away. But Priest starts to change, and yeah, they mercy kill him, and so, you know, they're all kind of pissed off and whatnot, and yeah, it then gets into a point where a lot of the vampires are angry that one of theirs, especially Chupa and Reinhardt, they're angry that one of theirs has been killed, and they kind of want to take it out on Whistler because he's the weak link. Obviously, they can't take it out on Blade. So yeah, they then find one of the Reapers in a weakened state. So Nisa suggests that she takes it back to the lab to dissect it and see how they can combat them, because they're immune to everything vampires are weakened by, apart from sunlight, obviously. So they managed to find that during like sort of like a dissection, that their heart is encased in bone, and they also have like neurotoxin to paralyze whoever they're biting. So they figure out that they can't do the stake through the heart. They have to do the sunlight, but obviously the Blood Pack vampires are susceptible to that as well. So Blade kind of lets them know that, listen, I don't expect everyone to make it back. So, you know, so that's how it is. So they go to find a Reaper nest where they found that Reaper that they dissected. So they go back there with some new weapons, with a UV light bomb and a lot of UV light grenades. So they go in there, and they're also from the dissection, they figure out that these Reapers have pheromones which can attract each other, and so they're going to use that to attract the Reapers to then take care of them. So they go into this kind of like sewer, yeah, it is a sewer, to find these Reapers. So Chupa and Reinhardt are with Whistler, and they start to beat him up, basically. Then Reinhardt leaves Chupa to beat him up. They're angry because obviously Priest got killed. And all the rest are trying to find the Reapers. So the Reapers actually find them, and, you know, there's a big battle. Most of the Blood Pack get killed at various stages. Blade manages to set off the UV bomb to kill them, but in the process injures Nisa, and I think Reinhardt gets injured as well. before that, actually, Whistler Nomak confronts Whistler, but instead of killing him, he tells him the story about how he actually got the virus, which you can't hear until he relays the story to Blade. So Blade has defeated all the Reapers, apart from Nomak. He sees Nisa injured, so he actually cuts his wrist to give her some blood. And as he's doing this, Damoskinos' men capture him. They electrocute him and capture him, Whistler, Scud, everyone. So they have them in the vampire lair, and Whistler lets Blade know when he wakes up that, look, we've been compromised. Like, there's someone giving them, keeping tabs on the inside, but they don't know who it is. And so Damoskinos, Whistler lets Damoskinos know that he knows that Nomak is actually his son, and he created the virus. The virus didn't evolve. He created the virus as his scientific experiments to try and rid his vampire race of all their weaknesses. So the daughter hears this, Nisa, and she's very upset. She kind of starts to take a liking to Blade. And she runs off. And then Damoskinos goes off, and Reinhardt shoots Blade in the leg. And then they take Blade off to harvest his organs, his blood, because they believe that in his DNA is the key to making Daywalkers. So they're gonna, harvest everything of him. Whistler then starts to get beaten up by Reinhardt. In the process of that, he actually gets the better of Reinhardt and manages to escape with all Blade's weapons. And then he manages to find Blade, but Blade is really injured because by that time they've put him in a contraption which was sucking all the blood out of him. So he was seriously weakened. So there is a pool of blood where Damoskinos actually feeds. And so Whistler tries to carry him to there. And as he's doing that, Reinhardt is actually shooting him. Blade manages to get into the pool and drink the blood, and becomes really strong because he doesn't drink blood. And then smashes up a whole load of guards, and then confronts Reinhardt and slices him up basically. And then he goes to confront Damoskinos and Nomak. In this time period, Nomak has already infiltrated the lair, killed a whole bunch of guards and fed on them, so he's super strong now. And he's now cornered Damoskinos because Nisa, Damoskinos' daughter, has kind of trapped him because she didn't like what she heard, and she's quite honorable. So yeah. So Nomak then kills Damoskinos, but he spares him his fate by just letting his blood flow on the floor. But his sister said to him, look, now me, complete the circle. And he actually bites her with his with the tentacles to give her the virus. So as he's doing this, Blade then shows up, and they have a fantastic fight. A fight that has a lot of stakes. I mean, at some point, you don't think Blade's going to make it. I mean, there's a point in the fight where Nomak grabs Blade by the leg, swings him round, and Blade's face licks a big concrete column, takes a chunk out of it, and, falls to the floor. And it's like, wow. Even in the first film, Blade doesn't get mashed up like that. So it was a really enjoyable fight because there was real stakes in it. So he manages in the end to defeat Nomak by stabbing him through the heart, but it doesn't actually complete the job. But I think Nomak, knowing that the end is near and he's tired of his pain, he then pushes the blade right through and dies. So Blade then sees Nisa has been bitten, and Nisa says, look, I still want to die as a vampire. I want to see the sun, because the sun is coming up at that point. So he takes her outside and cradles her as she then starts to burn up. And then Whistler's looking at this from behind. And then, yeah, that's the end of them. So then they leave. And then the next scene is the last scene when they're in London. And the vampire who Blade said he will consider him a loose end, is that a porn booth or whatever? I don't know. I think he's going to see naked girls, but he actually wants to drink their blood because he's got like razor blades and tissues and stuff like that. So it's a booth where the curtain comes up and I think you see the girl. So as the curtain comes up, instead of a girl, he sees Blade. And he's like shocked. And then Blade was looking at him just saying, well, you didn't think I forgot about you, did you? And then Blade takes his sword and stabs him through the head, through the window. And that is the end of the film. So, yeah, really, really enjoyable film. Film's about around 2 hours, yeah. So, obviously, Wesley Snipes played a blinder, as per usual, you know. What can you say about Wesley? He absolutely knocked it out of the park, just like he did the first Blade. You know, he's to be honest, for me, his performance is flawless. It's flawless. I mean, even the little I remember when there's a scene in there where the bomb that he put on Reinhardt's head, you know, it doesn't go off because he clicked it, because obviously Scud is working. So I meant to mention that Scud is actually working for Damoskinos. So Scud made that bomb and it doesn't actually go off. But then Blade lets him know, look, I know that you've been turned and I've been onto you and it's not a dud. And by that time, Scud had it in his hand and it blew up. And if you see the way he was saying two things, you know, the way his face just changed, but very subtly. It's acting masterclass, you know what I mean? Where people sleep on how good an actor Wesley really is. And that's why with the new Blade film coming, they had to get an actor who's comparable to him. And in that sense, they did in Mahershala Ali, because Mahershala Ali is as good an actor as Wesley Snipes. Some people would even consider him better. The only thing, obviously, Wesley Snipes has on top of him is being a martial arts master. So, but we'll see what Mahershala Ali can produce with this film. I'm sure he's deep in training. So yeah, Chris Christopherson as well smashes it out the park as Whistler, just like the first one. Really like, just like the first one, the connection between him and Blade. Like, it's a very macho connection, but you can always tell that they really care for each other. I mean, Blade, so in the beginning, when Blade finds Whistler, he knows he's a vampire, and he's actually looking at him and taking one of his stakes to kill him. And he's reaching for it, and he's looking at him, and Whistler opens his eyes, and it's like, he can't do it. And he puts it back in his pocket, and he takes Whistler. And then there's another scene, obviously, when Blade is hurt, been shot in the leg by Reinhardt, and Whistler's trying to get him to the pool of blood so he can, you know, drink some and recover. And he will say, and Whistler was saying to him, listen, you didn't give up on me, I won't give up on you, come on, kid. You know, Whistler basically looks to Blade as a son. You know, it is that relationship, but it's a very macho relationship in the sense that they don't really show each other how they feel, but they know. It doesn't need to be said. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of male relationships are like that, you know. I think it's only lately been kind of cool to be able to tell another man, look, I care about you, I love you, you know, you're my brother, like kind of thing. So yeah. It was a really, really good performance by Chris Christopherson. Ron Perlman knocked it out of the park as Reinhardt. So the reason why I say Reinhardt is definitely a racist, and it's even said by Wesley Snipes. So that when Wesley Snipes first meets the Blood Pack, the first one to talk to him about the Blood Pack is Ron Perlman's character Reinhardt, and what he says to him was, "Can you blush?" And Wesley Snipes has come out and said that he actually put that in because that was said to him at some point in his life by a racist white person. So he put that in, kind of thing. And it kind of dressed Ron Perlman like a neo-Nazi kind of thing, you know. So I did like that. I did like that. It just added a little different dynamic. You know, you're a vampire, but you're also a little bit of a racist. You know? So I really like that. Ron Perlman knocked it out of the park. Ron Perlman is just... I mean, I've been... Although I haven't been in any scenes with Ron Perlman, I was in the same TV series with him, The Capture, on BBC a couple of years back. TV miniseries, and I wished I got to work with him because that would have been the dream come true, but at least I could say I was in the same show as him anyway. Lenore Varela plays Nisa. She did a great job. I don't know how much martial arts she actually knows. I'm not sure, because anytime she had to do any sort of like real action scenes without guns, like actual martial arts, she was covered. So it was probably a stunt woman that actually did her part, especially with the fight scene, which I'll go into later, when they first come into Blade's lair. Yeah, the CGI fight scene wasn't great, I'll be honest with you, but we'll talk about that. Norman Reedus as Scud. He was great. It was great to see him as Scud. Kind of taking over Whistler's spot, and then turning out to be a turncoat in the end. So, and then got dealt with as he should have. Luke Goss. I have to say, you know what? When I first heard that one half of Bros was going to be in this, I was like, what? Really? But then when you think about all the people that are at the helm of this film, including Wesley, because Wesley is one of the producers, and obviously Guillermo del Toro, they're not going to put him in it if he's not serious about his role. And he knocked it out of the park. He was really good. I have to say, he was really, really, really good. So big up to him, Luke Goss. And Danny John Jules. Big up, Danny. Big up. In the same WhatsApp group. I actually talked to him a couple times, and he actually helped me with an audition. I didn't get it in the end, but he helped me same way. So big up Danny John Jules. You all probably still remember him. What's the Red Dwarf? Yeah. That's what he's most known for. But yeah, he played a blinder in this as well as Hassad. Yeah, did really, really well. Donnie Yen, criminally unused in this film. He didn't do much. Yet he also was the choreographer for this film, which I think kind of helps me gravitate to this being, well, this is my favorite Blade film, and I'll speak more on that in a little while. And I think that's a lot to do with Donnie Yen, but I think that's more to do with his choreography. He got a little action, he got a little sword action, he got a little triple jump side kick there. But that's it, he didn't really get to do much. And I would have loved to have seen him versus Wesley. Oh, that would have been a martial arts like extravaganza. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, oh well, we couldn't get that. So yeah, so let's see what we got here. So let me go into a couple of scenes that really we could talk about anyway. So for me, like I said, the scene where Blade first confronts Nomak in the House of Pain, that scene was fantastic, because that scene did similar things to what the beginning scene in the first Blade film did to establish Blade's power. So, you know, in that scene, you saw a whole bunch of vampires. They all have powers, but they're all scared and backing off because of this one guy. And that was in the first film. Now, in the second film, when Blade confronts Nomak the first time in the House of Pain, they have this little set to, this little fight. And remember, he killed Deacon Frost in the first film with this EDTA substance, anticoagulant. And, you know, Deacon Frost was really powerful. So he's now hit this guy with a couple of these capsules, thinking, yeah, game over. And he's looking at him, and he's like got some big bumps in his head, but then he just recovers and starts laughing. And you could see the scene was really well done, because you could see the beads of sweat coming off Blade, and he's looking like, how the hell is this possible? If he, you know, if looks could talk, that's exactly what that look would say. And he started to back off. When have you ever seen Blade back off? He started to walk backwards, and that's when Nomak rushed him and had that little fight. So I thought that was excellent to show Nomak's power and how dangerous a villain Nomak is in this film, without having Blade job to him. You know, it didn't take away from Blade's power at all. So I thought that was a really, really smart move on everyone's part. Again, the choreography for the fights, fantastic, because apparently Donnie Yen was one of the main choreographers, but Wesley and I think a couple of other guys, one of them being Wesley's stunt double, helped with some of the choreography as well. And actually, Guillermo del Toro said that there was like competition, friendly competition with Donnie Yen and Wesley and the others in terms of the choreography, which I think helped, because there was a lot more martial arts in the fights in this film compared to the first film. I won't compare the Trinity, the third one, because we'll do that when we do a review of that, if we do a review of that. But yeah, the martial arts was on point, and it was a lot stronger in all the fight scenes. The only fight scene that I thought was a little ropey was, as I said, when the ninjas, which we obviously know are the vampires, Nisa and Assad, when they come through and fight Blade with the lights, the god lights, that was the CGI for that wasn't very good. You could tell very easily that it was CGI. And I'll tell you what it was reminiscent of. Black Panther. The final fight scene between Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman smacked a lot of that. There was a lot of CGI fight in that, especially when they had their suits on and their masks on. And with the train going through, it didn't look good. It didn't look good a lot of the times. So that it was very reminiscent of that, unfortunately. Yeah, I wish they never did that. I think it would have worked better if they just did the normal fight choreography in that one. But you know, all the other fight scenes I thought held up. You know, and what other scene could I think of that might be of interest? I thought this. I don't know, man. There was the scene in the House of Pain when they've got Priest. He's the first one to bite the dust out of the blood pack, I think. The Scottish guy. So he gets killed, but he gets killed like he can't do anything. I mean, the Reaper that kills him is just wrecks him, basically, and then bites him, and then that's the end of it, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was crazy. Like, so what, you can't do anything? You're a vampire, you have powers yourself, like, you can't fight, like, what's going on? Like, he just got mullered. Absolutely mullered. I don't know if that was to establish the power of all the Reapers. I don't know. Kind of worked in a way, because it kind of, you kind of had that sense all throughout the film, especially when they go into the sewers to go after the Reapers in their nest. You kind of get that sense that those Reapers are very strong, and actually more stronger than the vampires, the normal vampires. So yeah, that could be a possible reason why they did it like that. I'm not too sure though. I couldn't find anything really to help me see if that was the actual what they were going for. What other scenes would you enjoy? It shows you how cutthroat Damoskinos is. When they come back from the sewer bit, when they've captured Blade, and Nisa lets Damoskinos know that Blade saved her life twice, and that she knows that he sent her to die. And he was just like, listen, those blood ties mean nothing to me when matched against the ascendancy of our race. And he said something very interesting. He said, who do you think God really favors in the web? The spider or the fly? I thought that was quite insightful for what it's worth. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this film. I mean, this film for me, as I said about the first one, actually still holds up. Like I said, ropey CGI in that one fight scene aside, everything still holds up. Everything still holds up. I mean, if that film, as it is now, was made as it is was made now, it would make $500 million. I'm quite sure of it. I'm quite sure of it. You know, everyone, you know, that Blade 2 made the most money out of the 3 films in the franchise. So I think that goes to show what people thought of the film. I mean, it did get a mixed review from critics when it first came out, but I think I mean, Roger Ebert at the time gave it, I think, 4 out of 5 stars, so he liked it. But I thought it was a very, very good film. Really solidified Wesley Snipes as not only an action star, although he was known as an action star by that point, but also a bona fide superhero character. And I think you've heard us say in the first Blade review, but Wesley Snipes' take on Blade, it actually allowed the comic book writers to actually mold Blade more in what Wesley Snipes set out. So I think that's a testament to what Wesley Snipes brought to the character. He really embodied Blade. I think Guillermo del Toro actually goes on record to say that, listen, no one knows Blade like Wesley Snipes. Not even David Goyer, not even myself, you know. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's a testament to the kind of work that Wesley Snipes did for this role. It would have been interesting to see him do Black Panther, actually, because remember, Black Panther was what he wanted to do before he took on Blade. It would have been interesting. It would have been interesting. I'm not saying it would have been better than Chadwick's, because it probably wouldn't have. But it wouldn't have been bad, that's for sure, because like I said, Wesley's the man. He can act, you know, and he can, like I said, he's a martial arts master. So, yeah, I guess that's it for the Blade review. Sorry I haven't got the other 2 guys to feed off and, you know, chat. But yeah, I'm sure they'll chime in, you know, with something or on the comments or whatnot. But yeah, that was my review, or back in time review, of Blade 2. So, have you seen Blade 2? I'm guessing you have. Otherwise, you won't be watching this video, right? What did you think of it? What did you know, going back to when you watched it then and watching it again now, what do you think of it? Do you think it holds up? Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you think. And yeah, please like, share, subscribe to us. We're doing great things right now with you guys' help. We're so grateful for your support. So yeah, please keep supporting us. We've got a lot of stuff coming in the near future, but we can only do it with your support. So yeah, please keep supporting us, and we'll do our best to keep pumping that content, baby. So yeah, from me alone, no one here. See you later.